I'm Reona Berry, and I am a 33-year two-time breast cancer survivor. I was 38 years old when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the funny thing was, I had a symptom that I didn't know was a symptom of breast cancer. It was a stain underneath my armpit, and it was not itchy or scratchy or a rash. So I thought maybe it was my deodorant. So I didn't pay any attention to it. But over the few months, it started getting bigger and painful. So eventually in January, 6 months later, I decided to get it checked. And the doctor did a biopsy with a needle. And when he took the needle out, I knew that wasn't good. So he sent me to surgery to have an excisional biopsy. And from there, I found out that I had a positive cancer and that I needed surgery to have a lumpectomy to have it removed. So I had that lumpectomy in March, and then I needed chemotherapy. And my oncologist told me that if it moves to the brain, the bone, or the blood, there was not much they could do. And when she said that, I just had an out-of-body experience. I just felt my life is going out the window practically. So I drove home, and I know I missed a stop sign. And I got home and basically just fell apart crying, which is expected. And I decided that, okay, how am I going to fight this? My oncologist, she was very encouraging. She explained to me what they were going to do, and that she encouraged me to join a clinical trial while I was on chemotherapy. So I had 6 months of chemotherapy and radiation altogether. And it was a very interesting situation. Chemotherapy, I was sick with the first injection, and I lost maybe about 10 pounds. But with radiation, they said some women would have radiation burns. I didn't have that, so I didn't have a bad experience. I healed up very well. I'd say the worst part of my experience was when they removed the drainage tube. They don't tell you how painful it is when they removed it, but I survived that. And from there, my surgeon suggested that I join a support group. And so I found one at the YWCA, and it was a really great group, all women from different ages and backgrounds. And that's where I met several of the Black women there, which we were very thankful to find each other because we didn't know other Black women that had breast cancer. So it was great to know we weren't alone in this journey. And that was the reason why we started the African American Breast Cancer Alliance, because we thought, where are the other Black women? We can't be the only ones here in Minnesota with breast cancer. And we wondered why we didn't get together. Black women didn't get together to talk about breast cancer. And that was the impetus for us building our organization. We did a survey of women in a focus group, find out, okay, what do you know about breast cancer? What have you heard? Do you know anyone with breast cancer? So we asked those questions, and we found out a lot of things about Black women and the culture of the Black community, and the fact that cancer was spoken in whispers. We did not talk about cancer. And so consequently, that information about cancer and breast cancer was not shared. And we found out later, women would come up to us and say, I had it 10 years ago, or my grandmother died from it, but they didn't want to talk about it. So we realized that the information was being suppressed, and we wanted to open up this idea of talking about cancer where it was not such a taboo. And the fact that there was no written material about breast cancer in Black women. And you look in the magazines, back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, you did not see Black women getting a mammogram in the magazines. So we always thought this must be a white woman's disease. So consequently, when we found out that all these different beliefs about breast cancer was keeping a lot of Black women from getting checked, learning how to do a breast self-exam, to getting a mammogram, they said, oh, no, I won't get a mammogram. It hurts. It's a hurt that doesn't last forever. It's a little pinch. It's the fact that a little pain can save your life. We had to get that idea across to women. And the fact that talking about breast cancer was the first step of learning how to survive breast cancer. We were able to write a brochure with the help of the American Cancer Society and the YWCA and other women that had experienced breast cancer through family or friends. And many of us were also breast cancer survivors. So when we got together and formed the African American Breast Cancer Alliance, that began our journey in more survivalship for ourselves and for other women, because then they sought us out and we sought them out because we knew they were doing everything for their families, their friends, their jobs, but they weren't taking care of themselves. And that's the one thing about being a woman. We tend to put everyone before ourselves, and we're not there for ourselves. And that's why we named our brochure Being There, because we wanted to be there for ourselves, for our families, for our friends in a healthy way. So after the brochure was designed and published by the American Cancer Society, they distributed it countrywide. And that helped us grow because there was no information in the United States practically for Black women and breast cancer. We grew it to the point where we learned how to have health fairs and take our message to churches, to job sites. And we were able to help women get over the fear of hearing the word breast cancer, getting a mammogram, doing a breast exam. And if they were diagnosed with breast cancer, they would be able to talk with the doctors, the nurses, and understand what they were hearing from the doctors and nurses about how to care for themselves after a breast cancer surgery. And the fact that so many women had also heard the myth about don't do chemotherapy. It makes you sick. It does make you sick, but in a good way. Once we got through that 6 months of chemotherapy, it was a healing process, a continuous healing process from surgery, radiation to chemotherapy, and healing ourselves emotionally because the fear does take over. I know I cried for a month straight every day, but that was my impetus to get the pain out so I could go to work and not cry at work. And it was something that I always felt in the morning. I needed that boost to celebrate my life day by day. And one of the songs that I would play every day was The Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic. And that helped me get through the day. And I had friends at work that helped me get through the day. And when the chemotherapy was becoming very tough on me, I was in the bathroom and I was sick and I was crying. And my friend was in the next stall and she says, Reona, you want to go home? I said, yeah. You want me to take you home? I said, yeah. And she took me home. It was just a great feeling knowing that someone would help me like that. And my supervisor said, you have plenty of sick time. You don't have to come to work every day. But I just had that sense of responsibility. I had to work, do my job. I just felt a sense of relief to be able to say that I'll be there. I might come in a couple hours late because it takes me a while to get it together, but I still came to work. And that helped me keep a regular routine for my sense of everyday survival and hope, because that's one thing. I had to hold on to hope. I had to hold on to hope for my family and my friends, because when I was first diagnosed, when we would look at each other, it was always a feeling of sadness. And I looked at them thinking, I'll never see them again. And they looked at me the same way. Every day I got stronger in a lot of ways. They got stronger too, to the point where when I was wearing my wigs and it was hot, my little nephew asked me, he said, Auntie, why did you get breast cancer? It's like, I don't know. It just happened. It was July, so my wig was really hot. So I took it off and they just looked at me and I threw it to him and he threw it back to me. And it was like a game we were playing with my wig. But that also helped me know that I was going to get through this and they would too. I think a lot of women tend to think that it's impossible to survive breast cancer, but survival is an everyday process. I don't think about years down the road. I think about tomorrow, the next day, maybe the next week, but I don't make year-long plans. At least I didn't back then. Now I think of it that way. I can think about next year now. So it was a very learning experience. And I'd say finding out how tough I was. We have that sense of we don't know how strong we are until we have to find out how strong we are. And breast cancer did that for me. It actually gave me a life to be able to work with other people, be a part of an organization, seek out women who need the same kind of help. That's become a very important part of my life, and I appreciate that. If a person is diagnosed with breast cancer and if someone else, I would like them to know that our organization, the African American Breast Cancer Alliance, is here for them. The African American Breast Cancer Alliance was established in 1990 because of the high incidence rate of breast cancer in Black women. They found that breast cancer in Black women was higher because of younger ages, because of late diagnosis, and the fact that Black women tend to fear the medical system. They had so many other barriers. They lacked insurance, they lacked knowledge, they didn't have the social, economic wherewithal to be able to seek out help. So with the African American Breast Cancer Alliance, we have helped break down those barriers for Black women and families and communities, and also expand our outreach into the community with doctors and nurses who really did not think that here is a Black woman with breast cancer. They didn't ask, do you want to speak with other Black women that have breast cancer? So for us, we're that in-between part of survivorship. Once a woman has been diagnosed, she needs to know, where do I go now? What do I do? Who can I talk to? That is a very important part of surviving breast cancer. You need to know that there are other people out there and that you're not alone in this process, and to be able to reach out actually and seek that help, because that will also help you get through it. We have had a lot of women share with us that they were able to make it through their breast cancer journey because they were able to talk with us. And the fact that it helped them open up the conversation with their family, particularly because they were afraid to talk about it. So we think that for a lot of women who felt shame in some cases, they didn't want to share it with other people, but they would share it with us in our support groups. And we hold our support groups on a regular basis, once a month, so that they can take time out for themselves. It's very important that we have time to talk about our breast cancer journey, because other people don't know what we've gone through. And it's hard to hear people, although their well-being want to help us, they don't know the right words to say. They ask questions. It's been 6 months already. Shouldn't you be over this? You never get over a cancer diagnosis. you get through it the best way you can. And we have a lot of women who tend to feel that no one will understand. That's why we encourage people, seek out groups and people and doctors and nurses that can help you find those types of groups that you need. We know that in order for us to get through the journey, we have to know that there are people out there that understand what you're going through. We always say, been there, done that. And it's a hard way to go, but you do get through it. It's a concerted effort on your part also, but also think about the people who need you to be strong too. They want you to be strong because in a way you help them to be strong for you. And that way they can help you. So if you're not feeling good after chemo or radiation, ask for help. This is important because some people tend to not want help. They think I can get through this all by myself. But as one of our sister friends who went through it said, I thought I was superwoman, but my cape has holes in it and I have fallen to the ground. And she was able to put it in a perspective that we all understood exactly what she was talking about. Yeah, we try to do everything for everybody, but it's a point where you have to take time out to take care of yourself. African American Breast Cancer Alliance serves people with breast cancer of all ages. Young women, because the rate of breast cancer is increasing, and the fact that so many times young women are told they don't have to worry about breast cancer. I was 38 when I was diagnosed, and the ages for young women are being diagnosed is actually going lower and lower. We have knowledge of women that are in their 20s with breast cancer, and we don't want them to be told you're too young, because if you're too young and put off surgery or mammograms or breast exams, that small lump could increase in size and become a stage 4, stage 3 breast cancer, which is harder to treat. Young women have to learn to do breast self-exams. They have to learn to ask for a mammogram if they find a lump. And also, if they have a history of breast cancer in their family. Men also need to know, while breast cancer is rare in men, they do get breast cancer. It's about 1 in 100 men that will be diagnosed with breast cancer. The other issue is breast cancer in Black people seems to be more aggressive. That's something that we learned through our breast cancer journey. And it's something that they are telling breast cancer survivors to be aware of, because for some reason, there could be a genetic link for breast cancer in the family, and it could be a very aggressive type. So we always want to share this information with young women. Do your breast exam, get a mammogram if you have to, and follow through with that particular medical information, because we want you to survive. We want you to still be here and to know that we're here for you too. The African American Breast Cancer Alliance is located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and our contact information is www.aabcainc.org. If you need information, please contact us. One of these stories about breast cancer affected me personally. She was a friend of mine. She was also one of our board members. She had a family history of breast cancer. And so she came over to my home. She says, I need some information about AABCA. And I thought, oh, okay. She was doing an event. She said, no, it's for me. And she told me she had been diagnosed and that she was scared. She was a very strong woman. So she went through her breast cancer journey with her family and friends. And because she was so strong, sometimes she did things her way. But she fought a hard fight for 7 years before breast cancer took her out. We miss her, but she was the type of person who would say, you need to learn how to do your breast exams, go to the doctor, work with your doctor and nurses. and fight for your life. She did that all the way to the end. She was a great person, and we miss her.